Welcome to the Authority File. I'm Bill Mickey, your host and the editorial director at Choice. Before I introduce this episode, I have some exciting news for you, Authority File listeners. We have a new podcast coming. It's called Patron Driven, and it's a narrative-style podcast that brings you crowdsourced library stories where the personal meets the professional. Season 1 is a 5-part series that follows 4 librarians through the destruction of the Lone Star College Kingwood Library after Hurricane Harvey and the 2 years it took to rebuild. Patron Driven debuts June 22nd, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can visit our website, choice360.org, and click on the librarianship drop-down to sign up for our newsletters and to find bonus and teaser content for the new program. Okay, so back to the Authority File. In the next several episodes of this podcast, we're going to be talking about open access monographs. More specifically, I'll be joined by 2 guests from MIT Press, which, thanks to an $850,000 grant from the Arcadia Fund, is embarking on a 3-year project to develop a financial framework and sustainable business plan for publishing OA monographs. A business plan that virtually any university press can implement. If the University Press mission is to distribute knowledge and research as broadly as possible, then many in the market are increasingly looking to open access as a way to support that mission to its fullest. Print monograph unit sales have plummeted in the last 20 years, clearly impeding that mission and causing presses to be more dependent on subsidies or other subventions, as well as trade and journal-based editorial strategies to remain viable. Joining me for this series are Terry Ealing, Director of Strategic Initiatives at MIT Press, and Raym Crow, a Senior Consultant at SPARC, who is working with MIT Press on its OA Publishing Model Initiative. In this second episode of our 4-part series, Terry and Raym describe MIT Press's first steps in its Arcadia-funded OA monograph publishing plan and what they're discovering so far about the underlying economics of monograph publishing and distribution. And Terry, I think it sounds like you're the MIT Press's initiative here. Before we dive totally into it, is the sustainability part of it is really what you guys are looking at, right?
Oh, for sure. That's absolutely critical. We're a long way from understanding the dynamics, economic, social, and cultural of OA book publishing. So we think it's imperative that individual presses continue to prototype new and mutually beneficial and hopefully non-rivalrous publication models that essentially treat scholarship as a public good.
Mm-hmm. So you see an opportunity here to come in and sort of do what? Kind of develop a framework for the whole market, basically, to sort of apply to whatever initiatives they're doing themselves?
Yes, that's the goal, to come up with a model that's ecumenical and that could be, and that's what we told Arcadia that we would do as well, because the report itself and the model will be made open access. But mostly that it can be adopted by other university presses
Right.
and other not-for-profit scholarly publishers.
Yep. And then real quick, before we get into the Arcadia grant and what that all entails and what you guys want to do with that, talk a little bit about what MIT Press's own history is with OA experimentation and OA monograph publishing.
Sure. This kind of got started for us, this particular project in 2017. We were approached by Brewster Kahle at the Internet Archive to pilot a project to make our out-of-print books and aging in print books available through the IA's Open Library program.
Mm-hmm.
And that project was supported by the Arcadia Fund. So we had no direct contact with them at that time, but we did have indirect contact. So when we decided we were ready to address the OA monograph opportunity directly, I think it made good sense for us to go ahead and approach Arcadia. And they have been a terrific funding partner for us.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about this latest grant and, what it entails, and how you plan to use the funds specifically.
Yeah, so again, this is the first time that we've been a direct beneficiary of our Arcadia funding. The grant was awarded last summer, and it is a 3-year grant. So we're halfway through the first year of the 3-year grant term. Some of the money is being used to offset direct and indirect costs of making approximately 50 titles, mostly frontlist titles, available immediately on our platform. So these are basically it's a teaser program for us to be able to promote our activities and to alert the library community that we are working assiduously to try to um, come up with a viable model for us, while Raym works essentially behind the scenes to come up with a suite of models that we can consider and then eventually adopt.
Hmm. Is there anything unique about the 50 front list titles that are going to come out immediately in terms of pricing model or not pricing model, but availability, or is it just the fact that you're releasing this batch of titles OA that is helping to promote your longer term efforts with this project?
No, we've been pretty thoughtful and inclusive in our decision making around the set of 50 titles. It
Okay.
involves our acquisitions editors and certainly our authors who need to agree that the books should be OA, and then of course what license, what CC Creative Commons license they would like to apply to the work. So this is approved by the Arcadia committee here within the press. So we've given careful thought to the books across a wide variety of disciplines that we'll be making available during this first round.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I was kind of asking if there's anything about that process of sort of selecting those titles that would hint at the the model that you end up coming out of this with, or if there's anything you learn from that might contribute to the model.
To answer the last question, not yet. So we
Okay.
have, so we've chosen these titles, I guess, based on a number of criteria that are not directly model dependent, since we're still in the process of crafting and designing the model.
Okay.
But these seem to be titles that were met our criteria for being, quote, hardcore scholarly monographs.
Hmm.
They were approved by the acquisitions editors and also by the authors of those books as well.
Okay.
Um, and again, it's a way for us to showcase this project, and they will start appearing on our platform within the next couple of weeks, and then right in through the fall. Um, by the time we roll around to Q3, Q4 of this calendar year, we expect to be able to talk more specifically about the model, as Raym has more time to work with data and other components that um, we need as inputs to the
Yeah.
model designing process.
Okay. That's a great segue. We're very curious about Raym's activities in particular too, and so as I understand it, Raym, you're kind of exploring the underlying economics of OA monograph publishing. What data are you looking at? What's available out there for you?
Well, specifically, we're looking at the press's data. I mean, we all know we're doing a environmental scan to understand the market overall, but we also need to know specifically what's happening at the press. And but practically speaking, this exercise really resembles more of what you'd see with a new product, because just the nature of monograph publishing, and in just in general, doesn't have yield the same kind of specific market data that you get from subscriptions or other kinds of products and services. I mean, the use of wholesalers, online dissemination, the data is very spotty. So again, it's basically we're really forced to treat it as a new service and really evaluate the market based on what we expect institutions of various types and sizes to do in terms by subject area, for example, for research and teaching needs.
So it sounds like you're making projections rather than basing things on some sort of historical information, I would think, right?
Exactly, and that increases the uncertainty of the uptake projections, and we have to take that into account in the modeling.
So can you walk us through that a little bit? How are you able to do that, or make those projections? What is available to you to sort of have some sort of confidence in what you're putting together.
Well, there's the market data you would have, again, for any service where you can go out and identify institutions by their research and teaching focus, and so this type of institution has the ability to pay, and this kind of institution has the willingness to pay or the demand for it, and you line those things up. In terms of how do you, again, there's uncertainty built in, which means risk, and so in terms of the projections, what we'll do is we'll test those for sensitivity to variations in actual market uptake, and that's just what it does is and this is for any service, not just OA monographs. It increases the uncertainty, so you have a broader range of when you're doing the projections. You just have to you're less confident, so you have to take that into account.
You just heard from Terry Ealing, Director of Strategic Initiatives at MIT Press, and Raym Crow, a Senior Consultant at SPARC, who is working with MIT Press on its OA Monograph publishing initiative. This 4-part series is brought to you by MIT Press. Join us next week when we continue our conversation and talk about what design criteria MIT Press is looking at for its publishing model and the revenue component of the business plan, as well as how the model will not only support STEM titles, but also the rest of the disciplines, including the humanities.
Another criterion is that the content has to be available immediately. We're not going to use embargoes. We want to use an open license. We offer, this is the press's decision, obviously, but there'll probably be a variety of open licenses available, of course, without any DRM restrictions. And the model needs to be as inclusive as possible and equitable to authors. So that effectively eliminates book processing charge models. And the model has to generate sufficient revenue, foremost, to cover the cost of the first copy cost of the monograph program overall. And that revenue has to be stable over time and predictable over time.
If you like what you hear, rate us or give us a review on your podcast platform of choice. And if there's a topic you'd like us to cover, drop me a line. I'm at bmickey@ala-choice.org. As always, sponsorship and advertising for the Authority File podcast are handled by Choice's advertising manager, Pam Marino, and all of our episodes are produced by Choice's digital media specialist, Mark Dirks, and digital media assistant, Sabrina Kofer. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us.